Republican Senator John Barrasso with us. So, Senator, very good to have you. What do you think? I mean, I've heard it from both sides, sir, those who advocate maybe protection for all of you guys, and others who are saying, how about just the freedom to be able to carry a weapon? You say what?
Well, first of all, our thoughts and prayers continue with Steve Scalise, his entire family, all those who were injured, and special thanks to the officers who protected so many others, because this could have been much, much worse. But no, as an elected senator from Wyoming, I will tell you I'm going to continue to go home weekends. I'll be heading there this weekend, continue to travel the state extensively, and sometimes by myself or just my wife and I will drive around the state, as we always do, talking to people of Wyoming, and I'm not looking for additional protection at all.
What is Wyoming an open carry state, sir?
Well, it is. Many of us have concealed carry permits that we've had. I support legislation to allow people who have that permit in one state to have reciprocity in other states. But yes, Wyoming, certainly the Second Amendment rights are critical in Wyoming.
All right, remind me not to ask you critical questions in person then. But one of the things that has come up, Senator, as you know, is this issue. Maybe all representatives, to Congressman Garamendi's point from California, all senators should have protection, that some will not be harming themselves, and some come from states where that is not even allowed anyway. So what do you make of that idea that they argue it would be well worth it a longer term to avoid what sadly has become an increasingly hostile and maybe potentially violent prone world?
Well, first, I think every man and woman who runs for office is there to try to make their community, their state, or the country better, safer, stronger, whichever party they're running from. And I believe that the men and women in Washington, D.C., representing their districts are focused on that. They want to focus on things of jobs, the economy, national security. In terms of our own security at home, I think each representative needs to do what they feel is to give them the security that they need to be able to most effectively interact with the people that elect them. But for my part, I'm going to be home traveling around the state, my wife and I continuing to do the things that we do all around Wyoming, and that's not going to change for us.
Well, it's a beautiful state, I'll give you that. You know, Senator, if you don't mind picking the doctor part of your fine brain, and that is what happened and what is happening with Congressman Scalise, that we're told at first he was hit in the hip and that he was in stable condition, then critical, that now I'm told his medical prognosis is rather complicated because the bullet might have pierced some pretty important organs in that neck of the woods, but that he is far from out of the woods. Now, I know you might not know the details of his medical condition, but what happens here? What do we have to be on watch for here?
Well, I don't know any of the specific conditions other than the reports that have come out of the hospital, that he was going to need additional surgery, which is not at all unusual with an open fracture where there's a bullet wound to a bone, to clean it out and then maybe do a repair later. That's not unusual. We need to make sure after a surgery someone's stabilized. If they're not and they're continuing to need transfusions and losing blood to the point where it's hard to keep up, you often have to go back, re-examine the areas, the blood vessels, and say, was there a blood vessel nick that continues to bleed and needs to be addressed that way? But I have not seen x-rays or know anything about the condition, or have I talked to any of the doctors who are taking care of Steve Scalise.
We hear a good deal about the fact that the bullet might have pierced some vital organs, and that is going to complicate things. I mean, as a doctor, I mean, what do you do in these days and weeks to come? What do you watch for?
Well, you watch for infection. If the bowel has been pierced for somebody, because there's an increased risk of infection if the contents of the intestine leak out, you look for signs of infection. You look for issues of bleeding, and you look for ultimately stabilizing the bone. There have been reports that the pelvis as well as the hip were injured and hit. A bullet can do a lot of damage if it's ricocheting around in the pelvic area. There are a lot of vital organs in that area, and they need to make sure that everything is recovering properly. Certainly fluids and fluids flowing in as well as flowing out.
All right. I tap the political questions with you, the medical ones, and of course your thoughts and prayers for the congressman and all others affected by this. Thank you, sir, very, very much.
Thank you, Neil.